What's good, family? Welcome to a Minor Hoops podcast show, the freshest opinions and views on the world's most beautiful game. And I'm here with the homies. Got Dunk Man Keith back.
Yo.
Brian, TK. We back in the building, boys. We back. How we feeling?
Feeling good, baby. It's basketball season, full scale.
All the way around. High school, college, pro.
Everything's running now.
We here.
Oh no, it's been some good games going around, some great competition, especially in the West. So I'm just happy that I can actually just turn on whatever game and actually see some bump. It hasn't been such a disparity between the top and the bottom this year as it's been in other years.
Yeah, that's a fact. I think right now it's pretty tight across the board.
It's like 2.5 games separate the top and the bottom of the West. Well, top and like the 10th.
Yeah, I think the same goes for pretty well outside of Boston, Milwaukee. We'll get to them, but yeah, I mean, about 2 games for the most part.
It's 3 games between the 1 and the 11 seed in the West right now.
So it's tight, and we're gonna get to all of it today. We're gonna start with Golden State. Now, Tamar, you remember that video we made before the season started?
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah,
and you said Golden State wouldn't be an A seed.
Yeah.
They are the 11th, and before being 10-10, they have been quite, I don't know, what's problematic.
They were struggling.
They were struggling. It was a struggling situation for them. They finally got back to 10-10 thanks to a lot of heroics from Steph, just being consistent, finally getting some good play out of Clay. But how do we feel about them now? 10-10, starting to seem like they're getting a good stretch going. I think they're 4-0 in the last 4.
They're 7-3 over their last 10. Like I said, I think they won 3 out of their last 4. So things are kind of turning a corner for them. So
I guess one of my questions, how do we feel about them? And 2, how much is this to credit or blame to the young players and their lack of growth to some extent? Because we're hearing a lot of talk about them in that regard. James Wiseman got moved to the G League. We're hearing people kind of put blame on Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody not being quote unquote ready. All this kind of feigning conversation around them because they are struggling so much. No one wants to really cast any of that blame to Steph because how can you? No one really cast any blame to Draymond Green because he's a vet. He should know how to play in an NBA game for 82.
Well, it's actually because it's really just been very obvious. Their starting 5 has been the best starting 5 in the league, essentially the entire year. So it's like, how do you, even with Clay, who was underperforming early, Looney really was kind of struggling at times early. Even with all that, their starting 5 was the best starting 5 in the league. So it was like, how much blame can you really put on the veteran core of this team? So then it becomes, well, we got to look at somebody. Well, you got to look at the bench. Dante DiVincenzo being hurt early definitely kind of hurt their rotation. Didn't let Kerr kind of use some of the lineups he probably wanted. And it put more pressure on the young guys to perform. And quite frankly, they just haven't, which isn't really that surprising. They're young players in a very complicated system and a championship window. Like, this is kind of what happens when you try to put young guys into a championship rotation. Either they're going to flourish or they're going to struggle. It's really not going to be a lot of in between. You have to perform on these type of teams. If they were playing on a scrub team somewhere, nobody would care if Jonathan Kuminga had 3 turnovers in 5 minutes. In Golden State, you get put back on the bench when you do that.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate because I think all of these guys, Moody, Kuminga, even Wiseman to some extent, I think all 3 of them are very talented. I think all of them can play basketball, but to play on this team at this level, you're not getting the leeway that you would get.
I was going to say, I'm going to go farther, and I'm going to say it's not only unfortunate, it's counterproductive. You're not going to see or experience growth in any of the young players if, when they have those 3 turnovers, you're going back to the bench. This is the very beginning of the season. Early on, we're moving more towards the early middle of the season, and we got around 20 games knocked out.
You're at the quarter mark.
Yeah,
25% in.
Yeah, so realistically, if we're talking about the play and the advancement of young guys in this league, they generally have a little bit more freedom to fill. And when you have championship aspirations, as the Warriors do, now that 1 turnover you had feels like 3. because of how crucial of a moment it was. You're not allowed to make those mistakes. Yeah. You're now sharing a lot of minutes with vets who understandably know how to play the game, but it is kind of eating into your on-court development, which is why I really like the comment by Jordan Poole to James Wiseman of like, when you go down to the G League, you're going to get as many touches as you want. It's not a punishment. And this came from somebody who went and experienced the G League, got all the touches he wanted, came back, and now people are pushing. A lot of people are actually pushing whether it would be better if they started him at this point in his career over Klay Thompson, arguably the second greatest shooter ever. So there's benefits, and I'm not just gonna harp on the young guys like there isn't. They haven't been able to improve at all, or if they've been giving all of the chances to improve. Realistically, that's a part of improvement, is allowing them to fail and putting them in situations where they can push past that failure. And if you don't have the room to do that, which championship teams don't, I'm not really blaming the Warriors either. That was about to be my question. They're in a championship window. You don't have that luxury. The reality of it is now you have to, in my opinion, commit to the next 2 years of trying to win it all, or we're going to commit a little bit more to developing your younger players. But I think as right now in the middle that they're in, you're going to see a whole lot of this where they have arguably the best starting five in the league on paper and statistics. But then when you rotate players out, it can get real messy and real inconsistent because they haven't been able to build core chemistry with everybody through and through in terms of their roles and reputations on the team.
Yeah, my question was definitely about to be, how much leeway do you give Steve Kerr towards that young group then? Because you say they need freedom to improve.
I blame Steve Kerr more than anybody else for the way this.
I was going to go there too,
because a lot of the lineups he used early in the season did nobody any favors. Like, he was literally throwing out lineups where it was literally all the young guys on the court at the same time, and that's not gonna go well when, especially from Steve Kerr, who has such high expectations of players and wants a certain system of style played. Like, you can't put Kuminga, Moody, Poole, Wiseman, and then like JaMychal Green on the court and expect those five guys to like run your motion offense to perfection. Like, that's just not going to happen. They aren't built for that. Like, he's done a good job actually the last couple of days. Kuminga's actually, once again, he hasn't gotten a ton of minutes, but he's gotten some decent minutes over the last couple of games, and they used them in lineups where it just makes sense. Like, there was an opportunity there where it was like he could have worked the lineups, and granted, maybe not having Dante DiVincenzo kind of ruined that a little bit, but like, it just feels like Kerr he's very much an old school coach. He doesn't like to play a lot of young guys. And when you literally have been winning championships essentially your entire coaching career, that's very understandable. Like, it's hard to say, all right, I'm going to let young guys make mistakes. Like, especially when I literally have Steph, Clay, Draymond, Wiggins, and all these guys who are literally tailor-made right now. But Kerr has to allow the reins to come off a little bit. We saw him struggle with this with Poole for a while. Like, we saw him go Poole in and out the lineup, Poole down.
It could have been damaging.
It really could. And once again, I think it damaged Wiseman to some extent. And granted, and once again, was Wiseman good by any stretch? No. But it's just like this idea of like, yo, you're pulling me for every little mistake I made, and we're all basketball players.
You can't even see if I'm gonna be good or not yet.
But here's the kicker of it, and this is why. And once again, we could talk about whether or not Draymond's punch had anything to do with this, and whether that's affected it. And I've told you this: that idea of trusting the system and trusting the front office and trusting the coaching staff sounds great when everything's been great. But now that I've seen Draymond take somebody's head off, every little thing that happens now, I'm going to look at with a side eye. You pulled me after turning the ball over. I just watched Draymond throw the ball out of bounds 3 times. Why is he still in the game? Now, granted, common sense tells you, well, Draymond has more equity. Draymond is a better player and blah, 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 blah. But Jonathan Kuminga looks at it like, yo, I was a number 3 overall, or what should have been a top 3 overall pick. It was number 7. I was the number 1 recruit coming out of high school. Like, and if we're going to be truthfully honest, in terms of pure basketball ability, there's an argument between Draymond Green and Kuminga if we're just talking pure basketball ability.
I think we made this point like last time we got together.
Now, there are things Draymond does in the grand scheme of things that makes him more valuable. But I can't be mad at Kuminga if he looked at Draymond Green like, I'm a better shooter, better ball handler, better athlete, and everything in between. Why does he get to throw the ball out of bounds and I can't?
No, last time we had linked up, I said arguably on 25 of the other NBA teams, Kuminga gets more minutes than Draymond Green. It's only on those very few teams searching for a championship that needs a piece like Draymond.
Fact.
Is he ever going to get more minutes than somebody like Kuminga in the league today? Now, I'm not sitting here disrespecting and saying Kuminga is automatically better or something like that.
He's not.
But realistically, in the stretch of how basketball generally goes, if I look at both players, it's very few times, only depending on what I need. Like those 5 championship all or nothing teams are going to buy into having a Draymond Green over a Jonathan Kuminga. Because realistically, if you give Kuminga, in my opinion, you give Kuminga the freedom to actually experience and fail on the court, by the end of a season and a half, it wouldn't be even a conversation about who the better player is. And I think that's a lot of the frustration in the younger players with the Warriors because they haven't been given that reign to really explore and really develop. You're completely right about Kuminga. We said it when he's coming out of high school. I was really high on him. I was surprised that he had fell to 7th, actually. I thought he was going to be a top 3 lotto.
Everybody had him at.
And that's what I'm saying. It's just off of ability. So if you are Kuminga, you do sit there and was like, if I went anywhere else, people are going to argue me in most improves by now, or I was going to be
I'd be a starter. I'd be playing 25, 30 minutes.
Bare minimum, I'm starting somewhere else if I got drafted. And I know we don't think about this a lot of times when we say it. When we think about money, generally, you think about contract years and et cetera, et cetera. But when you're in that rookie contract, you only got so much flow and room to really try to pick up and make things work before like contract negotiations start for the next contract. Because you got to think, if you're not going to get the keys immediately coming into the league, you're probably going to be sitting behind somebody on the bench or trying to learn or up your game. And money comes into play in this business as well. And I'm not trying to be sitting on a bench not being able to give my full production for the first 3 possible 4 years of my NBA career, and then now when it's time to talk money, we all look at me crazy because I don't have these type of stats or these type of accolades, but I have the talent.
Right.
So you get to that point, and I'm not saying anybody like Kuminga or Wiseman are anywhere near that point. I can't speak for them, but those things do come into play. Just how we said Draymond got possibly bothered about Jordan Poole's money when he had punched him. And mind you, it doesn't seem like it was something that was said on court from all reports, but that comes into play when you're thinking about things like that. So I am definitely going to agree with B in terms of me blaming more on Kerr. That's just going to be your job as the head coach to flesh that out and make it work with your rotations and your depth chart. But that's just something they're gonna have to work out. But I'm not gonna hit the panic button on it though. In terms of the younger players and the older players dynamic on the court with the Golden State Warriors, this is something where I think the mingling of people is something that Steph Curry has done extremely well. And since he's been playing at arguably one of his best, if not the second best year of his career.
Boy, something different right now.
I mean, he could say whatever he wants with his play. I mean, he doesn't really have to speak up, but he's always been willing to get himself involved in those kind of situations and to keep everybody calm, cool, collected, and happy with the team from outside looking in. So I still have a lot of faith in Golden State, and I'll say it, maybe it's too early, but they're still probably in the West my finals favorite pick.
No, like I said, I think watching them these last couple games, like they definitely have started to kind of find their rhythm, find their rotation. Clay's finally shooting the ball well again. And I think honestly, I think the big experiment for them was Wiseman, and Wiseman just isn't ready to contribute at the level they need. And having Wiseman kind of forces them to play a style that doesn't suit them yet. And now you're seeing with having Draymond playing a lot of small ball 5 again, having JaMychal Green now playing a lot of small ball 5, it's allowed them to just kind of go back to what they are and who they are. Yeah. And it's worked out well for everybody so far. Wiggins has been playing great. Poole's been kind of up and down, still trying to find his rhythm. But once again, he had a decent game last night against Utah. I think the team is kind of right. Once again, I don't think they're exactly where they want to be 20 games in, but in the grand scheme of things, like I said, you're 3 games out of first place, 20 games into the season. I have no fear I have no fear. Golden State's going to be a top 3 seed in my mind when it's all said and done, unless injuries happen.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And going back to the initial conversation we had about the Golden State Warriors saying like they'll finish 8th in the West, or people, speculating that, through analytics or whatever. The thought process, in theory, adding James Wiseman gives them another dimension. In theory.
And it should. In theory, adding him should give another dimension, should add something to their offense and defense as a team and make them a little more well-rounded. But when you also add in the variables, such as him coming off from injury, this is him getting back into game situations, and then adding in the fact that he has to be on a roster with this ebbs and flow of this smooth flow of an offense that really isn't him. I think there's certain aspects that just wasn't taken into account fully, and I think that's why a lot of fans had such high hopes for him coming back and playing, definitely,
but also seeing this underwhelming performance to some extent. And when young players, like you said, there has to be some level of freedom and some level of patience. And you gotta give them breathing room, like you said, to make mistakes, to kind of like get some of that stuff out of their system. And I think while the G League people have said the G League is a demotion to some extent, you can view it that way. But you can also view it as, like y'all said, like Jordan Poole went over there, got the touches he needed to get himself into some level of rhythm. So when he do get the minimal touches he gets on, or a floor when he's with Steph and Clay and Draymond, he can still kind of make the most of them because I got up and down the court, I got some burn where I was getting 20 touches. I got to put the ball up and do his thing. And so I think,
like I said, Wiseman's thing is like he has so many nuances about the game that he needs to learn.
Yeah.
And once again, it's so hard to learn that playing the style Golden State wants to play, the level of what they need him to play.
And the speed.
Like, and I think and people have been really down on Wiseman. And once again, I can definitely understand why to some extent. Like I said, he's been hurt. He hasn't produced that well. But in the grand scheme of things, like, we have to remember this is a dude who's essentially entering his 3rd year in the NBA. And it's still yet to play a full season.
Yeah, I was about to say hasn't played.
Like, he's played, I think,
since college.
Like, he's played essentially in 4
years. He didn't play a full season in college.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we're talking about a guy who, in the span of 4 years, essentially, has played, 60 basketball games?
Maybe. Yeah.
Like, that level, like, that amount of time missed, people don't understand what that does to you. If I don't play basketball for 2 weeks, I feel slow. I feel sluggish.
We're talking about the professional level.
And we're talking about the professional level. And like, you threw this guy out there and it's like, hey man, go out there and just figure it out with this team that's moving on all cylinders. Like, he was always going to look slow. And like, and once again, I thought he deserved more time. I don't think Kurt did him any favors. Don't get me wrong. But like, I get it. Like, yeah, dude, go to the G League. Just play basketball. For like 3 months, just play basketball. Go learn.
Go commit.
Figure out how to set a screen.
Yeah.
Figure out how to position your body. Like, these are things that the only way you get better at is to do.
Yeah.
Reps, man.
Reps on reps on reps. And people, and think about it, and I'm still very high on him because of the way everybody talks about him. Everybody talks about him like he's a really hard worker. He's been in the gym. He's been in the film room. He's done everything that's been asked of him. He just needs the reps. Just play, just play, just play. And I hope by like All-Star break, they give him another shot and he's able to contribute at least a little bit better. I don't think he'll be part of the championship rotation when it's all said and done. But I hope by at least after the All-Star break, they at least give him another shot where he's at least around the main team and playing.
While he may not be a part of the quote unquote rotation, I do think there'll be moments they will need him. And he'll be asked to step up to some regard. And if all those things that you say are happening, then I think he'll be able to show itself in those moments. And they'll probably be playoff moments. Like, he might be on that second 5. Mm-hmm. And in that game, Jordan Poole just needs a bunch of high screens and he's going to get a lot of lobs. That may just be the moment.
I ain't going to hold y'all. I'm going the opposite direction. It's not even on James Wiseman. Honestly, I think you're only going to have so much room in terms of expanding as the Golden State Warriors and adding those younger guys in. And I think the money's going to be on Kuminga, eating up a whole lot of minutes. Now, we can talk about possibly when Draymond leaves, how they're going to reshape things and if Wiseman's going to touch more minutes and things like that this year. But in terms of this year, I don't think Wiseman's going to touch a whole lot of more minutes. I think they're going to try to give it a fake try. That's what I'm going to call a little pump fake to say like, hey, we gave you another 8 games in the NBA before we sent you back down for the rest of the year or brought you back up and didn't play you or something like that. But in terms of him actually being able to carve out any kind of small role this year for the Warriors, I think that's pretty much donezo. And I also think it's something that he understood, which is why he reportedly has been so frustrated as well, because I'm seeing the same reports as you, is he's putting in the work. We're seeing it on attempted, and even when I'm watching him on the court, it just seems like he just needs the reps, and a lot of it is the little things that are the huge things for the Warriors. Because
facts
on a lot of teams, setting a correct screen or a proper screen or improper screen, whatever you want to call a Warrior screen, that's what we call it, a Warrior screen.
I like that.
That's a small thing in a lot of other teams. You know what I mean? Just make contact, go, whatever. Warriors is like, no, bro. Like, if you didn't do this correctly, we can't even kind of run the rest of this set now. You have like, to be really on.
Do you not see how hard Steph is running, bro?
I would rather you overcommit to that screen and lay somebody on their back and then get a whistle blown rather than not make enough contact or no contact at all. Don't rush them, or be in the wrong place or get there too early. And then we got a moving screen. So, and mind you, those are just the little things like that. Now, a lot of the bigs in the Warriors are able to pass out. And I'm not saying Wiseman is a horrible passer or anything like that.
I've seen him make some passes where I'm like,
and that's what I'm saying.
Interesting. Like, and when he makes some passes out of the split post, I'm like, he has the
talent level to be in there. It just feels like he's slower now. He's literally like, it's playing at like 0.5 speed for him. I mean, when he's on the court, it feels like he's 0.5. To everybody's normal speed is
he looks like me my sophomore year at Benedictine.
The game that was Ed Davis, right?
No, that was the year after Ed left.
Oh, okay.
But even that was on Daring Brothers went to UR.
Yeah,
I was like, oh wow, he's moving really fast.
I was about to say the game just needs to slow down for James, and it's not even his fault. That's the issue. I can't really even blame him so much, but I'm not banking on him getting a whole lot of minutes or opportunity this year, or even possibly with the Warriors in the future. I think he's going to have a good, healthy NBA career, but it's more so the Warriors window and the fit. I can definitely see Wiseman being flipped.
He doesn't.
I don't think he fits the mold timeline right now, which means he might not fit the timeline.
Okay.
At least Kuminga fits the mold,
I think
so you can get right on the page a little quicker.
I think the question, once again, I think there's a question for another pod.
Okay.
But I think the real question is, because I think it's been this weird energy between the front office and the core of the Warriors. Because the front office has seemed to want to move.
Yeah, they have last dance vibes.
Like,
because they're getting tired of paying. Like,
but that's
come on.
And here's the funny part about it. I don't even think it's that they're tired of paying. Because if we're gonna be honest, they're one of the few franchises that are willing to
burn a hole in their pockets.
Like, I think they don't have a problem cutting check. I just don't think they thought Steph, Clay, and Draymond would be able to continue this. Like, I don't think they thought Steph would be able to stay at this level. And there have been subtle comments about that. The year he got injured, the owner said something. The year they didn't make the playoffs, the owner said little things. It's always felt like they just didn't believe that Steph, Draymond, and Clay would get back to this level. And now that they have, it's almost like, well, we invested a ton of.
We already started working
banking on y'all not to make it.
Exactly. And we started banking on y'all not being there. So, and once again, I don't think
my investment just got $140 million for me earlier this year.
And once again, I don't think it's literally. And once again, I'm not to cut you off. I was like, I don't think it's money per se. I think it's literally just the image of like, well, we literally just spent a ton of draft picks on a bunch of young guys who we've invested.
We were ready to move on. We don't have to yet,
and now we don't have to. And not only that, you're making the young picks that we got look worse. Yeah. Like, you're making it look like we made bad choices, which I think all of us would sit here and say don't think
good picks.
Those are solid picks.
I would have made all those same picks.
I'm not mad at any of the picks, but when you put them next to Steph, Clay, and Draymond, it's like,
3 Hall of Famers right there. They're not going to look as well.
At this current stage in their career, you put them next to them, it's like,
what y'all trying to do here? Y'all, and once again, that's why you have a lot of fan bases that's like, yo, get these young guys out of here. We're trying to win more chips.
And that's why I think James Wiseman is the one that won't be able to stick around. It's a lot of good young talent on the Golden State Warriors. If somebody had to go to extend this championship window, I think he'd be the first one. But I think he's talented. That's no disrespect to James Wiseman.
Not at all. I think, like I said, I think he'll go somewhere and he'll do very well.
Yeah, I'm very high on James Wiseman. He does leave. It's not like a Jaleel Okafor vibe or nothing like that. And no disrespect to Jaleel Okafor, but
I remember Jaleel.
It's levels on that.
We get what you're saying. We get what you're saying.
It's levels.
You got to say no more.
Levels on that.
So yeah, in theory, Wiseman makes sense, but who knows? We have to see more. See how, see what direction Golden State goes with it. But let's move on. Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic is hooping, y'all.
Backpack. Carrying the whole world in that thing.
He's averaging right now 34, 9, and 8. Almost 2 steals as well. 50% from the field, 29% from 3. But he's taking 11 free throws. He's knocking out 75% of them. So, he's hooping. But the Dallas Mavericks are 9 and 8. Some people in the room had the Dallas Mavericks at the 1 seed.
I mean, they're like 2 games from it.
Everybody's 2 games from it.
So what we talking about? What are we literally talking about?
What we're talking about is
I'm not doing this.
The math.
But what we're talking about is the fact that we have seen that they are not going to be the ones.
No. Okay, we talk about that. I respect that.
No, if they end up the 1 seed,
that's a miracle.
That means the whole team caught on fire for 4 months.
They snuck somebody in a trade, or maybe they're just finally playing Christian Woods more minutes. But we can get to that later.
But Luka Doncic is averaging 38.3% in usage rate this season, second behind only Giannis. And my question is, are they overworking Luka?
Okay, so before we answer that question, because like I said, everyone said usage stat is a great stat.
Mm-hmm.
The stat I like to look at for like a player's like actual like usage though is time of possession, average dribbles per touch, and
I think it's still astronomical when you look at those.
It's even more astronomical is my point. Because, like I said, usage, like I said, people that don't know, usage basically just measures how many possessions end with the player either shooting or, I believe, passing to some extent.
Passing to an assist.
Yeah. So that's usage, right? And granted, that's a great stat to use, like I said, to see how often a play ends with a certain player. But, like, I like to look at time of possession because that's letting me know how long do you actually have the ball in your hands. Luka right now leads the league at 10.1 minutes.
The second is
James Harden at 8.9.
Sheesh.
That makes sense.
The next person is Ja Morant at 8.3.
That makes sense too.
It does. But gap.
It's a gap.
That gap
is ridiculous.
You said 2-minute gap?
So Luka's at 10.1. It's about a minute, which in the grand scheme of a basketball game is a lot.
You got to think about how many dribbles I can get off in a couple seconds. Like,
shot clock.
How much movements? We got 24 seconds on a shot clock.
Average second per touch. Luka leads. I'm filtering out people that are actually like playing minutes. Yeah. Luka leads at 6.5. So for every time he touches the ball, he has it in his hands for at least 6.5 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a fourth of the shot clock. It's like, just me having it in my hands whenever I touch.
It's ridiculous.
Whenever I touch the rock, I got it in for a fourth of the shot clock.
Here's the one that's even more shocking. Number of post-ups. Luka's third in the league behind Jokic and Embiid.
I ain't really surprised about that.
If you watch Dallas, you're not surprised. But if you said it out loud.
If you just present all of those numbers, you would think he's 7'2" and just backing people down all day.
Yeah. So to your point, is he being overworked? I don't know, because it seems like he's enjoying it. Like, he made his comment. Don't get me wrong.
Okay,
he made his
comment. Thank you. Give context.
I'm doing a lot.
Thank you.
I'm like, I don't have the exact quote of him, but he basically just said, like, yeah, I am doing a lot, and it does get tiring at times. And I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
On the same token, I don't really see him complaining every time he shoots that. I was about to say something really wrong. I don't see him complaining when he shoots that pull-up fade from 18 feet every other play.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like he likes having the offense catered around him, which most young players do.
Yeah.
I've said this before, and I don't like to shout out Colin Cowherd a lot, but I do agree with Colin Cowherd on a lot of things in some instances. He says every basketball superstar kind of goes through 3 phases in their career.
Mhm.
You have the early phase where it's literally just about numbers, proving I'm a superstar. That's where Luka is at right now. I'm going on the court to get 35, 9, and 9, and there's nothing nobody in the league can do about it, and I'm going to prove I'm one of the 3 best players in the league. Then there's phase 2 where it's like, okay, I've put up 35, 9, and 9, and I have to transition into championship basketball. And then there's the third phase where it's the realization of I'm no longer one of the top 3 basketball players in the world. How do I still transition and help my team win games? Luka is clearly in phase 1. And it's amazing to watch. Is it going to lead to a championship? No.
But and this is my question to people like Colin Cowherd when they say this. Because you're right. Like we've seen that phase play out in
everybody.
Every superstar's career.
Unless you were lucky enough to win early.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty
Unless
much.
You were a Magic, Kobe, somebody like that who just walked into a great team.
We've pretty much seen that play out in that regard. But isn't that detrimental?
I think it's natural.
Isn't that detrimental
for a sports player, like for a basketball player, to go through that kind of phase initially?
But let's be honest.
Is it detrimental? Probably, but once again, it's understandable when Luka has to turn to his left and it's Spencer Dinwiddie, and then turn to his right and it's Christian Wood. Like,
I ain't gonna say detrimental either, because it's a lot of proving point in those young years, and in terms of even proving it to yourself, there's a lot of confidence that's get built in those young years of just putting up your numbers and understanding that I can control the game in whatever manner, anytime I want. So detrimental isn't the right word. If you don't get out of that phase, it could be detrimental to winning for sure.
James Harden.
100%. I was just about to say, a la James Harden, because I mean, what is Luka right now other than fair-skinned James Harden? If you're talking about the actual production that's going on and that he's putting up. We've seen this before. It was with Harden with the Houston Rockets. Not a whole lot of shout out I did to Harden when he was with Houston, because there wasn't a whole lot of winning that was happening in terms of what I thought they should be doing in terms of championships. Now, granted, we can argue Golden State being a roadblock, but that's not for the conversation right now. Luka is getting overworked. That is the question that you had asked.
That's the question.
He's 100% getting overworked. I don't think it's...
But you don't think it's detrimental?
I don't think it's detrimental right now, but it's not...
I'm gonna have to
entirely his fault either. I brought up Christian Woods earlier. He's struggling to get 25 minutes a game from his coach. Like, and mind you, when he does get 25 minutes, he's playing extremely well. And it's not like they have other options that are eating at his minutes. So
he's shooting 44% from 3, 58 from the field, like 17 and 8 a night.
Like, how much better do you want me to play to get more minutes? Yeah. He doesn't even know why he's on the court. Like, so I'm not sitting here and saying that he's the end all be all solution to be next to Luka in terms of like that workload.
No, that's fair.
But geez, like there's other options at other times to help him out, or even in putting him on the court together more. So it's Luka's getting overworked, and it's not entirely Luka's trying to put up or show superstardom. But a lot of it, I think, is
just necessity.
Yeah, a lot of it's necessity. A lot of it's how the coaches. I look to my
right. What am I supposed to do? A lot
of it is how the coaches are gonna set you up. And then lastly, I think I agree with the Cowherd statement about it's just proving that you're a superstar. Like, that is a validating yourself. Not even for anybody else. I can't say Luka's hooping like this to show everybody else he's a superstar. But even in your head, sometimes it's just like, no, I can do whatever I want, so I can get to that championship aspiration or of dominance on the court. Yeah, you work your way up to that. So I see it a whole lot more in Ja, of course, who's a little bit more expressive in interviews and just culturally how we can connect. But Luka is definitely in that phase of like proving, whether it's to himself, to fans and people back home, to the Dallas Mavericks organization. But he's definitely in that I'm that dude, I'm gonna prove it type of mode over. And I'm not gonna say he's not looking towards winning, but the team in and of itself isn't valuing winning enough right now, because they would have shifted to how we play, because we all agree this isn't winning basketball. Great to watch, though.
Like, you kind of stole my point.
Oh, my bad.
It's cool. It's cool. That's the point. In terms of the moves that was made this offseason, in theory, we thought Christian Wood would play more. We thought he would play more, have more of an impact footprint on the whole grand scheme of the game. We were sitting watching them play Boston.
Yeah.
Boston. And he was hooping. He was hooping.
He's been hooping all year.
I mean, Boston was playing unreal that night.
Yeah, they were on something.
But that's a good. Now think about it, that's a good thing to look at. And I know this is kind of unfair because Boston hit on the draft twice. They hit with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown
and Marcus Smart.
I get that.
And Robert Williams.
He didn't play, but yes, I get that. But looking at it, it's like we have our guy. We have Jason Tatum. We have Luka, right? And you give us that first year versus the Clippers. Like, oh shoot,
he's a one.
He's one.
Yeah.
We got one.
He's him.
We got one. Immediately, if I'm the front office, if I'm the coach, whoever it is, my mentals goes to, all right, let's get this player in the best position to play winning basketball. Not just put up numbers, but let's play winning basketball. And I think Luka is so good that they're gonna win games.
Of course.
They're not gonna understand how
but
much
they're not winning.
Yeah.
It's not winning basketball.
What roster he really needs to be a championship team.
It's not
in the regular season, it's always gonna look like, oh, he doesn't need as much as he actually does need because it's still so much that he does. And that's
it's
shot at him at all.
It's very much the LeBron James effect.
Yep.
Like we want to call it.
And that's not fair because that was detrimental, but it wasn't because Bron was indestructible at the time. But it was detrimental it would be detrimental to any other human being.
But think about how crazy it is where we're talking about a 23-year-old superstar who's already led his team to a conference championship or to a conference
appearance last year.
And we're already sitting up here talking about, man, he's not playing winning basketball. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely agree with the statement.
Yeah.
But on the outside looking in, it's so easy I can understand how the front office is able to sit there and go, we're a guaranteed second round team from here on out. All we need is one or two things to break our way. And who knows, we might be in the finals. Now, granted, is that what you want to bank on? I wouldn't.
I think that's dangerous.
It's very dangerous. We saw Cleveland do it, and that's why LeBron James got out of there.
That's nasty behavior, which is why I supported LeBron when he left.
I had no problem with him leaving.
Yeah, I was like, that's cool with me. When he took off that jersey in the tunnel, I was like, make a whole lot of sense.
I was just mad that he quit on the team before that, but that's a whole different story.
I saw it coming.
But I mean, in terms that's LeBron leaving is the best case scenario because in his best interest, he still went on to play prime basketball in Miami.
Yeah.
Luka does not have the body that LeBron has.
Luka's still 23. I could care less. We talking about 3 years. He's going to be 26. He ain't going to be that old.
His game is going to age well. I'm sorry. Luka's doing this for another 10 years.
I'm sorry.
At least 10 years.
I'm sorry. It takes him, I'm not going to say it takes him more work because we know how much work LeBron did to put his body in that position. But in terms of just longevity and handling that, that's not the case.
I'm going to say a crazy statement to your face right now.
7 years?
I'm telling you.
6, 7 years of doing it by yourself? I don't care if you can't jump.
It's only like
Greg,
3, 4
Greg, I'm going to say a crazy statement right now. People going to come at me in the comment section, whatever. If you would ask me age 23, LeBron, Luka, who's going to mature better, I would say Luka. I'm sorry. Just in terms of whose game would mature better, I would say Luka. LeBron was a freak athlete. One ACL, LeBron James' story is different. Luka could tear his ACL tomorrow. I would bank next year he'll be the same dude. He already slow.
Nah, bro. I see your logic behind that, but you're acting like his ACL is already at 0. It's not. He can go slower.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong.
We can throw this joint in reverse.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Luka would immediately walk back.
But I see what you mean. He relies less on his athleticism than a young LeBron James did. I would say that I see the upside of being carried early by your athleticism and growing into your game.
And that's fair.
What I would say is, arguably, if you were going to go out like that, Luka can only get so much better. In my head, at 23-year-old LeBron versus 23-year-old Luka. 23-year-old LeBron, with the athleticism that he had, banking on injuries that we got to see that didn't happen, I would say the sky's the limit for that man because he can jump out the gym crazy and we never talk about the other side of the ball. There is no question about defense
he was easily better
in terms of Luka and LeBron.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Yeah, even if we're keeping it strictly offense, I wouldn't make that statement so hastily. But I see what you. I'm just talking
about in terms of games maturing, going like. We've seen so many guys like LeBron who relied so heavily on athleticism that they didn't develop other parts of their game.
Derrick Rose. No
Fair.
disrespect to Derrick Rose. Fair. I know how sensitive we are about him.
Like Vince Carter was like that. Like there are a lot of guys we've seen who were kind of in that mode of just being a freak athlete dominating the game athletically. And Luka's already like the
Russell Westbrook.
Like Luka's already adding new things to his game that I'm seeing. And I'm like the post up, like he didn't post up this much in the first couple of years. Like he added a post up game. He's one of the best post up players in the league this year.
I'm fully aware of the elements he's adding to his game. But if you add, I don't care who you are, you play 6-7 years at that level, it can be detrimental.
I agree.
It can be detrimental. It can weigh on him. And then you add in the fact that, no, you're not bringing any help. You're not looking to actually play winning basketball. So guess what? I'm in a situation where the philosophy is give me the ball and everyone stand. And so now when I do get help, it becomes a conversation of how quickly can I adjust to it?
Yeah,
because
we
also seen that as well. And
we saying that with a lot of stars.
And you said he's James Harden with fair skin.
Yeah, fair skin James Harden.
So it could easily be a Houston situation.
I agree.
It could easily be that. And so we could then be looking at his career saying, what if, and it could be, as much as we love him and realize he's a Hall of Famer, it's like, is he going to get a ring? By year 13, we could be looking like, is he going to get a ring?
Once again,
that's the detrimental aspect.
You and me have literally had this conversation before about Luka. I'm like, once again, I think Luka, he's very much right now in a James Harden kind of setting where he has to put up these numbers. He has to play this style. And I think he enjoys doing it to some extent. My whole point has always been he's doing it way earlier than Harden did. And he's already been, if we're going to be quite as kept, he's already been way more successful than Harden in the playoffs. Like that's
which is why I think there's a level of urgency that should be taking place with him.
I agree. My point is simply his timeline is a little bit longer than Harden's was when he started doing it. And let's keep it a stack. Harden had more help starting out than Luka did.
That's fair. Yeah, I agree with that.
Those Houston teams were better.
They were significantly better in terms of talent level. So when I see Luka, and granted, is he playing winning basketball? No. Should the front office be a little bit more urgent? Absolutely. On the same token, I can sit there and look and say, you have at least 2 years to figure this out.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it has to be done this year. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with letting Luka just get his 35 a night this year. Like, honestly, what move could they make right now that would make them a contender in anybody's eyes?
That's the issue, though, we're going to run into, though. I
agree.
If Luka is always going to get you to the second round of the playoffs, like give or take a round, you're not going to build through a draft.
Of course not.
So you're going to have to make great moves in the free agency, which you're not really going to get major free agent names because you're Dallas. Dallas has never been able to pull huge market names. You're going to be able to get pieces, of course, but
yeah,
people
weird. 100% it is a big market, but
because Houston's right there, and I'm gonna sign at Houston if we're talking about markets rather than Dallas in basketball.
But I don't think Houston's going to be a major player on the market.
They're not going to be a major player, but I think there are going to be other places that are going to be more intriguing and attractive than Dallas would be. Specifically, playing for an organization and that play style that they have. I think they're going to have to go all out and try to get a disgruntled star or try to make a move that we didn't see them being able to make. That's why I said that Christian Woods move was amazing. That Kristaps move, I loved it when they first snuck Kristaps. I was like, no takebacks. Those are the kind of things that they're going to have to do in order to build towards a championship team. And then or even a solidified, like, all right, if we can just get one more piece, maybe we can get somebody to sign then, or maybe we can make this last bit of a trade. But initially, it's going to be 2 to 3 of the right medium-sized moves to get them in order to play, which can take 2 years, but I think they're going to have to constantly be active. That's going to take a flip of the flip, a call here, a call there, bring somebody in just to move them. Yeah. I'm not sitting here and say they're going to have to play the whole league or nothing like that in terms of like shuffling their hands and cards, but a team like Dallas, it's a reason why like it took Dirk, in all his years, the championships are hard enough to get to already.
Facts.
You got the 2, and those Mavericks teams were great. They were great.
They were good.
They were great. They were great teams.
Good.
They were some great teams. Now, granted, the West was wild, wild West back then.
They were good teams.
They were good.
They were good teams.
Great is like it's hard.
Dirk was great.
It's hard for me to call
Dirk
your
was
team
great.
You know what?
When you literally only have one Hall of Famer in their prime.
Okay, fair.
They were good teams.
They were some really good teams.
They were really good. They were
I'll settle on really good.
You got it.
They were good.
Like I would say, like the Hawks are good this year. I don't want to say they're in the same level of good. Yeah, they were really good teams. Yeah, so it's gonna take a little bit more for Dallas in terms of helping Luka. That timeline I think is extended, but I think I would be sweating right now if I'm Dallas and Luka, just simply because my talent is here already.
That's fair.
I should have more help in terms of like I don't want people to just think I have a switch to turn on when you think I have enough help all of a sudden.
Even though I do.
Yeah. But that's besides the point.
I know.
It's,
like I said, it's a very dangerous slope.
He's already in his 5th season. So
and I look at other counterparts in the West like Ja Morant when I'm like he has a more complete team around him than I do.
They've hit on their draft picks. Desmond Bane is a problem.
But that's what I'm saying. They were able to get draft picks back then. We're not getting any more than now.
But Desmond Bane wasn't a top pick. He was like number 20.
He was like number 20.
Like that's what I'm saying.
He was
like Memphis just hit on picks. Like between Bane,
because Jalen Brooks wasn't super high.
Pick.
But yeah, Jaren Jackson was there before Ja though.
Exactly. They've just hit on picks.
But at that time it's gonna start feeling like it's wasting away when your counterparts are getting better.
I agree.
When you're looking at people who are close,
pick.
who are
Desmond Bane was the 30th pick.
Wow.
Jeez. Draft better, everybody. But when you look at your counterparts that are going to be in your class in these discussions, the Jason Tatums and things like that, these are all people who are that one piece away from a championship team. Mm-hmm. Legit. These are two guys and teams, the Grizzlies, the Celtics, that are one piece that we can go as far as say
Celtics are there right now.
Yeah, they're already there.
There.
But then we could sit there and look at a team like the Pelicans. And it's like people who are in your area of class that are like are a better team than you, objectively speaking.
This is where I'm gonna be somewhat critical of Luka, because I've been critical of every other superstar in this mode. Luka is gonna have to learn how to win in a different way than what he's used to as well. Like
I can't do that if I'm alone.
And granted, my point is simply, I've been critical of every other superstar in this mode. That's why I'm staying consistent here. Trae Young, James Harden, I've had the same criticism, all of them. You're gonna have to learn how to use your teammates in the appropriate way. Now, granted, does Dallas have the best roster for him to do that right now? Obviously not. My point is simply, if they make the moves, because let's be honest, the reason there was a lot of hung up between him and Kristaps is because Kristaps wanted to play away and Luka wanted to play away, and they just couldn't figure it out.
Don't go ahead. Say what I'm gonna say.
Kristaps, shut up. You ain't Luka.
Thank you.
On the same token, if you're Luka, your job as a superstar is to figure out how to use your teammates in the best way possible. It's gonna be something he's gonna have to learn. Now, granted, is it going to happen this year? No. He doesn't have the roster for it. But when they put that roster in place, just like I've said with Trae Young getting DeJounte Murray, you're going to have to change your game to adapt. And whether or not he does that will determine what category he falls in. Is he a James Harden or is he a Jordan? And that's going to be the conversation.
And my point is, in terms of even if we've seen the past, and we can move on to the next thing, because we're going to talk about Timberwolves next, talking about theories. So in terms of this situation, I've seen, like you've already mentioned Trae Young. I've seen other young players get that, all right, let's get you in a situation to where we need you to change your game a bit to be more successful. Because we've realized the window is shifting on you. Like, you've been here 5 years now. Like, so we know what you are. Like, we know what Trae Young is. We know what DeJounte Murray is. We know what Jason Tatum. Well, there's more there, but we know what that is, right?
Fair.
We know what Ja is. And so we got these young guys that's in situations like, all right, we see it. Let's go ahead and let's start giving you what you need so you can be the best version of yourself, but not have to do it for 48 minutes strong.
Fair.
Like, you got help. Dallas hasn't done that. And I said it when they brought in Kristaps. I'm like, I'm not sold on this.
Well,
I'm not.
To be honest, organizations have never taken accountability of literally saying, I'm going to first acknowledge what you need and what you are as a basketball player, and then B,
if there was any player in the last 8 years, 10 years that we could say, oh, that's a guy.
I hear you. I'm not arguing against that. I'm telling you what organizations are thinking. I'm telling you what organizations are thinking. Like banking on a player and putting that much investment and trust into them in terms of like that level of investment is very rarely ever seen. Most of the times the onus on winning gets shifted to the player rather than the organization. So we're not going to sit here and say organization didn't surround him with the things to mature and nurture enough if we think he's a superstar. Eventually, organizations know, players know, fans know. We're going to be like, Luka ain't win there. Luka ain't get a ring. Luka ain't win this, win that, win this. It's not going to be Dallas Mavericks didn't surround him with enough talent early on enough to help him develop. And mind you, that was very valid. But that would have been all invalid if LeBron didn't do what after he left? Win. So that's kind of the thing that hangs on like the back of the door for organizations is like, at the end of the day, ain't nobody going to call me a loser as much as they can call you a loser. And that's why they can go or not go as all in as they should earlier on. It's a kind of play and wait, but that's just perception, I think.
No, I agree with you. Like, there's always going to be more pressure on Luka than the organization per se. Unless the only saving grace that ever comes from that is when a player literally is so obvious.
Yeah.
Which, if we're going to be honest, we could argue Luka's playoff performances are kind of putting him in that rarefied air of like, like this dude is single-handedly.
Kobe, LeBron with the first stint of the Cavs.
It's just clearly obvious this guy is playing at a level that is far above everything else, and y'all need to do y'all job. And granted, you may be right. Like, after another year of this, it may turn to that. If he goes into this playoffs after 30 again.
I'm willing
because he doesn't fold in the playoffs. So that's my biggest thing is we could say whatever about the regular season and winning basketball. That looked like winning basketball last year when he single-handedly took him to a conference finals. It was winning basketball, and no disrespect to Jalen Brunson, but
I'm not gonna say single-handedly.
Yeah, I was about to say, it was a couple of games that was, but against the Suns,
he sent them boys packing.
That wasn't Dallas that sent them boys home. It was Luka.
I'm trying to tell you. I'm willing to book it. I'm willing to book it when the playoffs hit and they're ousted in the second round and he averages 38.
But 38, 7 and 6.
But the next person averages 14 and a half. The whole media are going to say, Dallas, what are you doing?
I hope so.
All of
Fox
going to say all of what you're doing. And I was just 6 months early.
No, slander Dallas and organizations. That suck.
We're not disagreeing with you. They definitely should.
I am mentally 100%. Prepared to watch them do that because this whole thing, we 5 years in. And like I said, the young boys and the young organizations with the young boys, or the established organizations with the young boys, are establishing where they want to be already. They're already making claim to like Boston's gonna be here, New Orleans trying to be here, Memphis trying to be here.
I mean, like the Timberwolves went all in trying to be there. So
let's get to it, man. Like Minnesota, 10 and 9 this season.
10 and 9.
I think the last
everybody record in the West.
Lost to Charlotte last night.
Charlotte.
Yep.
Been very up and down for them. Very, very up and down. We've seen some weird clips. We've seen moments where Anthony Edwards has not moved on a whole offensive possession. We've seen possessions where Cat has manned the paint alongside Rudy Gobert, and they practically ran into each other.
Just gotten away.
We've seen possessions where D'Angelo Russell has decided to shoot his own contested fade instead of swinging to the open man.
Lefty luck.
This roster, in theory, we thought made sense.
I still think it does.
I'm at a space where I'm going to say this is going to get worse really fast.
Interesting. I'm of the opposite.
It's going to get bad. It's going to get bad.
I think it's right where I expected them to be. They're 520 games in.
So all the little things you see aren't red flags.
The only one that's a real red flag to me is the Anthony Edwards one. It's more so been because of his comments and how he's kind of set them up, because he's made the comment of like, well, yeah, there's no space for me to go anywhere. And
because why he hasn't been able to dunk this year.
Exactly. So that's been the only real red flag to me. The Cat and Gobert thing, I'm like, yeah, that's going to take time to figure out. You're trying to figure out how to play 2 7-footers. One of them can't play away from the basket. The other one wants to play near the basket, but also wants to shoot 5 threes a game. Like, yeah, it's going to take time to figure that out. They didn't have the preseason to do it because Cat was hurt, or not hurt. He was sick for most of the preseason. So they've been figuring that out on the fly. D'Angelo, I'll admit, has really disappointed me. I thought he was going to be a lot better. Yeah. But at the same time, like, there's nothing saying he can't play better. I still think he has a ton of talent. So him missing reads, him missing shots is like, sometimes it's just basketball. Like, it's going to take time for them to figure this rotation out. On the same token, yeah, has it been pretty by any stretch? No. I never had them as a top 4 team anyway. So if you're telling me right now they're the 10 and literally all these teams are literally tied at the same record, I'm like, sounds about right. Sounds about right where I thought they'd be.
Your thoughts?
I don't think I'm gonna hit a panic button in terms of their season this year. I think a lot of it is just inconsistencies, and I can go would be on that in terms of you have 2 7-footers trying to figure out how to play together. Specifically, one's not known for his offensive prowess at all. So that's an aspect that you got to bring in, because it's not like you just sat here and gave D'Angelo Russell another like offensive 2. Now, while Rudy's a hell of a lob threat, if there's no spacing on the court, how Anthony Edwards had brought up, now we have issues. And I can understand Anthony Edwards' frustration, because in my opinion this year, he's been the most consistent player on that team. He's going to get his numbers every night, somewhere around like 23 a night.
And 22.
Yeah, I'm about to say he's going to get in a plethora, like a variety of ways, even without being able to dominate or attack the rim the way that we all loved him for last year, just flying at the rim. So he still has the ability and space to shoot. The real issue with the Timberwolves, I 100% been saying for like the last 2 years, there's no hard soul to this team. There's no one person to gather around. There's no leader. There's no, who is this team for? And it's no disrespect to Cat. I know you got there first, and I know you've been through a hell of a lot with that Minnesota organization. I am not trying to take that away from you, but when you're watching these games, and when I watched that playing game last year, or any of the important games or something like that, at times on the court as a player, you seem to disappear or not play up to what I expect Cat to be able to play up to. And then I also don't see a necessarily corralling or a magnetism from anybody on that court in terms of their play or riling up anybody else. It just seems like everybody's really talented and just here. So the Timberwolves don't have a talent issue as of yet. I'm not thinking of it like that. It's a culture one. And that's why bringing somebody like Rudy Gobert in didn't necessarily help them as much as they thought. Because while granted, he's a Hall of Fame level defensive player, I can't take away that for like what you traded to get the skill makeup for. It makes sense. I understand. But what you're missing, you're like the biggest piece of your puzzle that's missing isn't a skill level piece. I think is heart and culture and somebody who's actually ready the troops. And I'm not taking a shot at Cat and saying he's not a leader. He just hasn't been leading the Timberwolves in the way that I think a basketball player who would be considered a leader would be on that team doing. So maybe he has to grow into that role a little bit more. Maybe it's because of a whole lot of things that have been happening outside of that. I understand it's been a lot of other things with the family. He just got sick this offseason. He's trying to get back for it. That's why I'm not hypercritical of it. Real life happens. But when I watch it on the court, which is why I said like a year or two ago, I was like, Anthony Edwards probably going to end up being a heart and soul in this team because A, I think he's going to be the best after this year. For sure. It's going to be hands down him. And B, I think he's just more willing to be more vocal, to show that emotion on the court, to like, I don't know how to say this without making it seem like I'm taking a shot at Cat. But
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just,
I get what you're saying,
it's a lot of, it's
I'm
a
gonna
lot
take
of
the shot for you.
Yeah, I'm about to say it's a lot of things outside of actual basketball that's been going on, which is why I'm trying to be hypersensitive to why.
No.
But at the end of the day, if you're on the court, you're on the court, and I don't think that he's actually leading that Timberwolves team in a manner that's conducive to winning or appropriate enough to bring somebody else aboard to help along that winning. Like Rudy Gobert isn't a young guy, or he's not a leading vet.
Yeah,
like he was a number 2 to Donovan Mitchell, so it wasn't, and no disrespect to Donovan, but he was a young boy.
Yeah.
So when you don't have that voice, that presence that you're bringing in and trading all these picks coming in, and you're trading all of this just for skill, not for culture and not for leadership,
yeah,
you're gonna run into these issues.
all right. First and foremost, I agree. We have to be aware of what Cat's gone through. Cat, who knows how long it takes to cope with losing family. I have yet to lose
multiple.
I have yet to lose my mom, so I don't want to be insensitive to that. I can't be insensitive to that because I don't know how I would act, if I lost my mom. So I understand, to be sensitive to that regard. Cool. After that, I don't want to hear Cat talk. I don't. I'm sorry. Cat cannot get on the mic and tell Anthony Edwards, hey, that Popeyes joke, that ain't no joke.
I didn't want to hear that either.
That's not funny to me. I'm going to talk to him.
But you see how weird it, like, even me, I was like, why are you saying that, Cat?
Like,
because
bro,
it felt out of the ordinary.
It felt corny.
Yeah.
It felt corny to me. Like, it felt like, I understand what he was attempting to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because sound like he's the guy to do it.
Because it's not even that he doesn't sound like it, because I've heard, it's not a shot at you, man. I love you. Brian has told me things on the court, like, hey, yo. And he said it in a corny way. Like, I need you to play better. But he said it in a really, really corny way.
I ain't talking about the phrasing. I'm talking about the person. Like,
and that's
Brian
the point.
Can tell
like,
you
Brian
something about basketball. That's what I'm saying.
He can tell me something about basketball. He'll say it in his corny
if
way.
I'm Anthony Edwards,
and I'll be like, all right, let me lock in. Let me lock in because he's right. And he's hooping. He's doing his thing. Let me get on. There's moments where I'm looking at Cam like, bro, you're not.
I don't know if I'm insulted or what right now.
It's a compliment. It's a compliment. You're corny, but you hoop. You're corny, but you hoop. I love you.
I don't care how B says it. B got 20 right now, so I got to listen to B.
Exactly. He's going to say,
what are we talking about? I'm out playing you, bro.
Exactly.
Off my bad diet. Exactly. What are we talking about?
I'm eating these Popeyes biscuits, no drink, and I'm getting 22.
Is he?
Sheesh. Like
you can argue it. And the fact that it's arguable means you shouldn't be telling me what I can eat or not eat.
I guess.
You're not hooping that much better than me.
You're not hooping better than me.
That's fair.
And so ain't like you Shaq. You don't have an MVP by your name. So I think it's that's that part for me. Red flag again. There's the lack of culture there. I think Chris Finch is a good coach. I really do.
I wasn't gonna mention coaching.
I think Chris Finch is a good coach. I think what he's attempted to run.
It's been some good stuff.
It's some good sets there. I've seen some good basketball. Bro, I think in some of the things he's been called.
The chemistry and connection with them is not basketball or skill. I'm telling you, it's culture.
I think we have to really ask questions about, did D'Lo already have his best season? Is D'Lo done in terms of being the guy to run an offense?
Yeah,
that has to be a conversation.
Shout out my guy D'Lo.
Because quite honestly, there's moments where I'm like, keep Jaden McDaniels on the floor.
Nah, facts.
No, Jaden McDaniels super.
Keep Jaden McDaniels on the floor.
He starts. Wait.
Who? No, not Jaden McDaniels. My bad.
Jalen Noel.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry. Keep him on the floor. Because in terms of what we need him to do, to what D'Angelo Russell's actually giving us, the benefit might be letting Noel rock a little more. Might be.
Maybe a little bit more to see what he got, but ain't nothing.
So
and I like Noel.
I like D'Lo. I mean, this is not hate. This is not hate.
It's a fair conversation.
This is not hate. But I've seen, and then in terms of, like you said, we're paying a guy 250 M's. And let's be honest, there's going to be a moment in the playoffs where he's obsolete.
We'll see.
We see it every year.
Yeah, like it's and so when you take all that into account, when you take all that into account in terms of culture.
No, I hate that argument for Rudy Gobert, bro, because he was made obsolete by essentially being the only person on Utah that could guard anybody. Like if I'm the only person playing defense and I'm the one that got played off the floor, what did I say about the rest of you?
You know how you say like you're not great at anything, but you're decent at everything. That's kind of how I see Minnesota in certain elements. Like Minnesota, they're not going to be great at defense because they're not going to be great at defense.
We've all said this. This is why we haven't been on bottom four of the Western Conference.
They're not going to be great.
I expect them to make it though.
But even if we elevate, say we take this 3 years to the future, same forward, same core, I'm still feeling the same way about him. I mean, I'm still feeling the same way.
We all said at the beginning of the year that all comes down to how do you view Anthony Edwards going forward. If Anthony Edwards becomes a superstar, we're gonna have a totally different conversation. But then he takes a step as a superstar. Then it takes awareness of everyone else, including Cat, which I think at this point,
but that's the buckle and understand that Anthony Edwards is a superstar now.
No, now we're having a totally different conversation of what the dynamics of the team are.
The dynamic, and like I said, when I'm watching this team, I see those red flags and I see those dynamics already taking shape. Mm-hmm. Anthony Edwards standing on the side, not moving on a whole possession because he realizes this play is going nowhere because we have two guys in the same spot. He says, you're better off just giving me the ball and you guys going down there. The dynamic is already taking shape, B.
I think,
and that's my point.
Because I get what you're saying. Let's also keep it a sec. Anthony Edwards is not a good playmaker for his teammates.
No, he's not.
He's not a good passer.
No, he's not.
So yeah, like
he says, if I shoot the ball from 20 feet, this is a better possession than what I'm watching right now.
Okay,
and that's crazy because, like you said, I think he understands he's not a good playmaker. I think he knows he can't pass.
And that, to my point, is in order for the team to actually be maximized, Anthony Edwards is going to have to become a better playmaker. That's what's gonna elevate Anthony Edwards to a superstar. He can go out there and get 30 right now if you put him on a bad team and just say shoot the ball 25 times. He had to become a better playmaker. You have one of the best lob threats in the league. You have Cat who, we can sit here and talk about everything, Cat's heart and everything, and pump Kool-Aid and all that other stuff, whatever.
I ain't gonna pump Kool-Aid.
I mean, once again, I'm just sitting there. We had that conversation back and forth all day. At the end of the day, we've seen Cat be a 25-point scorer in this league for the last 4 or 5 years, essentially. Like, he's a bucket in this league, has been his entire career. So to act like they can't figure out how to score is insane. The reason they can't score right now is because literally their backcourt is not good at playmaking. D'Lo's not playing well, and Anthony Edwards is not a good playmaker. That's why they can't score. Let's keep it a stat. Because don't sit here and tell me the spacing is bad when I watch Steph Curry play with Draymond and Kevon Looney. No. Figure it out.
That's not fair, dog.
That's not fair.
You just said the greatest shooter of all time. And the second greatest shooter of all time.
He literally
does
bring out a whole defense.
Did I say they had to be the best offense in the league? I simply said they could be at least a league average offense.
Hey, and
I didn't say they had to be the best offense in the league.
I don't know, man. When we sit here and talk about offense, we sit here and talk about a 7-footer that we said.
Who's the better offensive threat right now? Rudy Gobert, Kevon Looney.
A better offensive threat right now? If you want to keep me to a band?
It's Rudy Gobert without question.
All right, because they feel very
vertical spacing alone makes Rudy Gobert a better offensive threat.
All right.
I think how many times I've seen Steph pass the ball to Kevon Looney. He grabs it, pump fakes, gets his block, has nowhere to go, doesn't know what to do, and just throws something up at the rim. You can throw a lob to Rudy Gobert anytime he's near the basket. It's 2 points.
Okay. Then why does he average 11 right now?
Because Anthony Edwards can't make the pass.
Because nobody in their mama want to pass to Rudy Gobert. Nobody on any team that he's ever played for wanted to pass Rudy Gobert because he's a great offensive center, right? Because he's a good center. We all don't want to pass him. That doesn't make sense, B.
Huh? What do you mean?
It doesn't make sense that he goes from Utah where you have guys who don't want to give you the ball, and then you go to Minnesota and you got guys who don't want to give you the ball because you're able to score, right? No, he's not offensively skilled. That is not a diss. That is not diss.
All I said was he's a lob threat.
And if he's better than Kevon Looney, he's only about half a heartbeat, and that doesn't mean a damn thing. It's Kevon Looney. If you put Rudy Gobert,
if you put Rudy Gobert,
$200 million,
if you put Rudy Gobert right next to
Kevon Looney, you're the issue. You're the issue. $200 million, and I gotta compare you to Kevon Looney on your offense. You are the issue.
I simply said who's better,
and that's the comparison.
No,
that is the comparison.
I don't think they're comparable.
Like Kyrie when he didn't promote that book. You compared him.
I don't think they're comparable though. I don't think they're comparable.
You would have chose a different name if they weren't comparable.
No,
you would have chose a different name. I would never say Steph Curry and Andre Roberson because they're not comparable.
I put
you two front court people.
Neither one of them are offensively skilled.
Exactly. Neither one of them are offensively skilled.
That are not offensively spaced.
That's my point.
That's all I said.
That's my point. We're choosing between doo-doo and poo-poo.
Who's a better offensive threat? Cat or Jimmy?
Literally, you just said both of them are not good on the offensive end. And talking about Rudy Gobert and Kevon Looney. My point is, yes, you made a comparison. Yes, you made a comparison between two broke offensive players. So either the comparison was just it shouldn't have happened because it didn't mean anything, because it doesn't make sense that there's an obvious answer. Because they both don't have offensive game. Why would I know who to choose if they both have broke jumpers and don't have offense?
I'm choosing
They're not good. I don't want either one of them on the offensive league.
Outside of Anthony Davis and Giannis, Rudy Gobert is the best lob threat in the league.
They're not good.
That's an easy option. It's an easy. If you would have,
I'm not sitting here saying they're not. I'm just saying he's not good. That's not the example to make somebody good. You compare them to somebody who's trash. Yes, Rudy Gobert is still trash offensively.
Okay. Sure.
If a girl's a 4 and I put her next to a 2, I know who looks better. I know who looks better. It's a 4 next to a 2.
The math checks out.
Come on,
dog. I'm saying. Asking Rudy Gobert, I get it. We all would expect players to be better. But if I'm getting best rim protection, leading rebounder, top tier lob threat from a player in my starting lineup, at that point, asking him to be more is literally asking him to be the best big man in the league. And sometimes you're not getting that from players. The player that I expect to get better is the 22-year-old who acts like he's already God's gift to the franchise. If you want to act like you're this dude, be that dude. What's the conversation to be had now? I gave you best rim protector, gave you a 20 and 10 power forward, gave you a 6'5" point guard who theoretically should be playing better, I agree, but should be a good player. You're the guy who wants to be the superstar. Be the superstar.
I'm looking at it totally different. I'm the guy who got here last in the league. Cat, you've been with Minnesota. D-Lo, you've been in the league longer than me. Rudy Gobert, you got your $200 million XYZ. But now we're talking about I need to be the better passer to make all y'all look good. Y'all bums and play better. Period. That's it. I'm not going to look at the youngest guy on the team and say, you want to be the superstar? Cat, you want to be the superstar, right? Cat doesn't want to be a superstar?
I probably does.
Play better. I can ask my fellow teammates to play better and not just the young guy who just got here because he's carrying himself like that.
Now, here's the real question, because we talked about the dynamics of the team. Mm-hmm. Do you think Anthony Edwards would be okay if they started posting up Rudy Gobert even if he was scoring well? Do you think Anthony Edwards would be happy with it?
Would he be happy with it?
Even if he was scoring well?
I have to answer this sensitively because it is a basketball related question. Mm-hmm. If they're winning well and they're playing well, you think
Anthony Edwards would be okay averaging 18 points a game? Rudy Gobert jumps up to averaging 22. Cat averages 28 because they just run the offense through them the whole game. You think Anthony Edwards would be okay?
Hypothetically, if that happened and they were winning games, I'm gonna go. So yeah. But I don't think that's gonna ever. I think if they made that changes, I think you just brought up an impossible because I don't think they're gonna. If they made the changes, I don't think they're gonna be able to do that. But hypothetically, if they did, I think they would be winning enough.
He wants to be the man.
I see what you mean, but I think the winning is gonna change a little bit of things.
I don't think so.
I think if it was like I said, if the dynamics were assertive to some extent, even if Cat now that Cat's not playing bad, but if Cat felt assertive in terms of this offense,
it's gonna go through me.
It's gonna go through me. This. We're going to hang our hats on how I take the first step. If that was the culture that was built there, then I felt like Anthony Edwards would be cool to some extent with that. In terms,
I don't think you would.
In terms of defer,
I think you would have as well. A little bit more cool than what you think.
If Cat's averaging 28, 26, something like that,
and I gotta walk in here and watch that from the get go,
and you still getting up 20
or close
19,
to it,
20,
yeah,
and you're fourth in the West, fifth in the West. Mm-hmm. You're not playing this up and down basketball. The defense isn't weak in terms of rotations, because we're watching Cat on the other side get burned.
I will accept this argument though. If my shots went down on Anthony Edwards and then they automatically transferred to Rudy Gobert, he'll probably be tight because I don't think he's gonna think that that's gonna transition to points. But if for some reason Cat just start going off and becoming the number one option on that team, I think there's a different dynamic that goes along with that.
I think there is a very Like, because even now, Cat is a more efficient scorer than Ant. Like,
he should be. He should be.
Is. Like,
but you're a 7-footer. You better be.
I mean, even with that, like, Cat shoots better. Like, from literally every spot on the floor, Cat's a better scorer than Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
So, and even with that, Ant still takes 4 more shots a game than Cat. Now, who brings the ball up the floor?
D-Lo or Ant.
Yeah.
Cat is a post-up dude. In order for him to get those shots, get those touches, he has to get to a spot on the floor. They got to run a set. The ball has to get to him. Rudy Gobert, granted, much more limited offensively, but same rules apply. In order for him to actually be a threat on the offensive end, a la DeAndre Jordan, a la any lob threat you want to name, you have to get the ball in certain positions. Who controls that action? D'Lo and Ant. If Ant is taking 4 more shots than Cat, unless y'all tell me y'all want Cat to start bringing the ball up the floor, I'm looking at Ant because, hey, dude, you want to be a superstar. If you want these touches, you want these shots, cool. Go be a more efficient scorer, first of all. That's number one. That's
what has to happen before anything happens.
Or be a better playmaker and get Cat the ball in certain positions and get Rudy lobs at the rim. That's what superstars do.
But that's the next level to superstardom. But my question is because Ant's not supposed to be the best player on this team. And this is why I sit here and I say, point at you, point at you, and point at you, and point at you. Not the 21-year-old who just got here who needs to be a better playmaker and be a more efficient scorer. Things that, generally a lot of people don't see until they're 24 in this year.
Facts.
In this league. Facts. So instead of me pointing at them, I'm looking at the people who should have already established who they are as NBA players. And when I tell them to play better, it's not grow your game more. You should have been already aware of this to some sort of level. So it's criticism of them. We're not sitting here critiquing Anthony Edwards' potential because I'm not going to sit here and bet against him being able to be a playmaker or bet against him being a better or more efficient scorer because I believe, before he even got drafted, I said he's the number 1 pick. Like, I'm going to sit here and say that he showcased everything that of a number 1 pick since then. He has time to grow. He has time to do all of this, X, Y, and Z. Everybody else we just mentioned has had that time already.
It's so easy to make fun of Cat at times because, yes, he is corny at times. He does a lot of weird things.
Stats.
But, my favorite video. I feel like we literally need to, keep in mind, who Cat is. Cat has walked into the league and has been essentially
2010 easy.
2010 his entire career. 2-time All-NBA, 3-time, he's produced his entire career. Now, has it been at the level that we would expect from other players? Has he produced at an Embiid level? No. Has he produced at a Giannis level? No. But I think the thing we always have to just kind of keep in mind, not everybody's those players. Yeah. It's just reality. You can't expect every number 1 pick to be Giannis. It's just
fair. And that's...
So if
that's fair, but here's the problem I have with that. The problem I can live with someone saying, he's not that guy. He can produce because you know what that player sounds like Kevin Love. That's Kevin Love.
I mean, Cat been moving like he that dude. Telling me what to eat.
And that's the problem. I didn't hear Kevin Love talking like that.
Telling me what I
didn't hear Kevin Love talking like that. I didn't hear Kevin Love saying,
let's also remember,
making the declarations that Cat made.
But you know what's funny? And here's the funny part. Once again, I feel like I'm sticking up for Cat. But on the same token.
You are, but it's cool.
Somebody got to.
Yeah.
But on the same token, Cat's saying it, granted, y'all don't want to hear it from him. But if he doesn't say it, because should Anthony Edwards be eating Popeye before a game?
Nah, he should be doing that.
Okay. So if he doesn't say it, it doesn't look like he's a leader. But when he does say it, he's not a leader. What is he supposed to do?
You know what I want him to do? Okay. I want him to showcase leadership on the court effectively before it's any of this little stuff.
He was the All-Star last year, not Anthony Edwards.
I mean, I hear that. But then again, you weren't the reason they won that play-in game at all.
That's fair.
We can swing it the other way.
Still played. It's not like he wasn't there. It wasn't like he literally wasn't there. He was there. He produced. There's a dude. We literally.
You're the number 1 pick.
Who's watched his family die, been sick, and everything, and still showed up to work and done his job. That's a leader.
You're an all-star in spite of that. So we could say this is your mob. But when I say somebody else won this playing game for you, but you've been doing this in spite of that too. Hey, you are on the court, bro. I'm not gonna bring any other off the court stuff in that aspect. But I can give him his credit in terms of being a part of that team, being a major piece of that team, but I also can say that I haven't seen leadership quality from him. Just in case you were on paper the best player last year in terms of stat wise, because that's what the All-Star really pulls. But like, it's no heart, no culture there. And I'm not gonna say heart as in fight, as in dog, but I mean camaraderie and community when I say heart. I don't, definitely not questioning people's willingness to play the game or love for the game or anything like that.
That's fair.
I didn't know the Minnesota Timberwolves top was going to do that to us. I definitely thought it was going to be the Luka one. But all right.
Luka's
we all
getting overworked.
love Luka.
Luka's getting overworked, bro.
We all love Luka.
He's sweating. Luka probably would have did that to me like 2 years ago when I was still trying to hate, but I was hating out of love back then.
I said he was on GOAT trajectory 3 years ago.
Oh, no, yeah, you were calling it pretty early. Like, the only thing I said about Luka was that he should have been in the one pick before he got drafted. Like, Leak and I had that argument, but that's neither here or there.
All right, let's look at our MVPs, man. Luka's averaging 34, 9,
it's
and
Luka
8.
and Jason
He's doing
and Giannis right now. That's all I can say about MVP.
Embiid, man.
Y'all sleeping on Steph. If Golden State go on a winning streak.
If
Golden State go on a winning streak,
I'm
Steph
waiting
right
for them
there.
to win a little bit more before I hop on the Steph.
They one game behind Dallas.
But the East, when we talk about winning a little bit more,
it's Tatum right now.
I was about to say in the West, I don't think Steph has beaten out Luka. And in the East, it's Tatum and then Giannis. Steph is sitting pretty at 4. Real pretty at 4. No disrespect. It's a real pretty 4th seat. The prettiest non-metal seat I've ever seen given. But we got 3 people who are going crazy.
No, Tatum.
And 2 people are producing wins.
Tatum's producing, then it's Giannis, then it's Luka, then it's Steph.
Embiid tried to peak up a little bit.
He did, then he got hurt again.
Yeah, then he got hurt. Yeah, when he almost dropped 60 on them boys. That was crazy.
Different. But yeah, I give you your props on your Tatum pick right now. You sitting pretty.
Hey, man.
Yeah, I think Luka gonna fizzle out, man. I've been worried about it. I'm like, Luka might be but
I just don't think they're gonna win enough. Like, it's just, and if Boston
he ends up with 35, 9, and 8, I could care less. They're gonna give it to him.
Nah. Not if Boston wins
the playoffs?
If Tatum averages 30, if Boston wins 60, like,
if they win 59, you gotta make it to Luka though.
No,
I don't think so, bro.
No,
you gotta make it 60.
So. Dude, I know you picked Luka. It gotta be on 60. Stop.
It's just, honestly, no, it's the same reason why I picked Russell Westbrook when he had a triple-double. Like, certain things are just, we just talked about, and
if
the
Boston
reason I said,
wins 60 games with Tatum averaging 30, it's over.
It's all how we view the award, right?
Fair.
Best player, best team, Jason Tatum, easily. Most valuable player, we just literally said Luka's usage rate is through the roof.
It is.
What is Dallas without him?
Yeah.
Lottery.
That's a fair
lottery.
That's a fair
lottery.
Point. That's a fair point. By that logic, Steph should have won it 2 years ago.
I was arguing for stuff like
we all were.
No, unless that was the year they didn't go to the playoffs.
That was the year they lost in the play-in.
They lost in the play. No. Yeah. Nah. I think you at least gotta.
You gotta be comfortably in the playoffs.
Luka is not comfortably in the playoffs right now.
He's 2 games away from the first seed.
Everybody's 2 games away from the first seed.
Nobody's comfortable in the West, which is why Steph is behind. If Steph was top 3 seed right now, like, if for some reason he was 4 games in front of Luka,
but Boston winning 60 games with Tatum averaging 30 doesn't push him.
I did
far
say
away.
they pushed. I said 59. They don't.
Oh my God!
I said 59. Don't. You can play it back. I said 59.
Give me a break.
You are not winning that over Luka. 35, 8, 9, or whatever it is.
Nah,
you're gonna need to give me 60 wins, bro.
I
gotta have some kind of level of technicality for it because that's somebody averaging 30 and getting 60 wins, and somebody else averaging 35, 8, 9, and making like the 7th seed.
I understand. But get that award to Tatum, bro.
Yeah, Tatum,
get that award.
Unless something happens, Tatum got the lock.
I'll probably swing my vote to him by the end of the year if it continues like this.
Right now,
I could still argue for Luka because I can still say they're only 2 games back from the first seed. So as long as I can say that, as long as I say within 4 to 5 of the first seed, I might be able to pull it off. But now, what Tatum has been doing with the Celtics has actually been.
It's been crazy.
I mean, especially after the pivot of having like the head coach being suspended / fired or whatever we want to call it, indefinite suspension, having to pivot off that, having to start the year without your defensive big anchor. I'm not going to say your defensive anchor. Shout out to Marcus Smart. I mean, got to respect that award. No, for real though. Defensive player of the year. I ain't going to slide it. First guard since what Peyton?
Yeah.
So... Got to give big ups to Jason Tatum in terms of that MVP race right now. I think it's 1A, 1B. I'm cool with giving it to Tatum. I'm cool with giving the Tatum the edge because I value winning. No front. It's not like he's averaging 24 and doing all of this winning. It's a clean 30. Like, and it looks nice.
It's a good looking.
Yeah, it's everything that I want out of a 30 ball. So, yeah, I'll sit there and I'll say, but if this keeps up, Jason Tatum probably will end up the favorite for MVP.
Yeah.
But I think right now, Luka is still the favorite for MVP because of the amount that he's doing. And there's not enough separation in the win-loss column in the West to determine whether it's, I don't know, it's not winning basketball, but it doesn't look like that bad on the record right now.
Yeah, I can rock with that. Going back to B's point, Steph Curry is squarely scaring everyone.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This
for sure.
This looks like the.
It might be the best season.
It might be the best.
But that's why I said it earlier.
Season. I'm just gonna say it looks like the best version
of Steph.
I was who was that talking?
I can respect that. He looked like he can.
Was that the Utah coach? Did you hear the Utah coach?
What, last night?
Yeah. You know what he said about him?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember exactly what he said.
He basically said, he was like, he basically said, like, I'm watching the best basketball player ever, and there's moments where I have to like snap myself out of.
Oh yeah.
Being a fan
of, like, I'm just tuned into what he's doing. I have to remember I'm here to
Will Hardy
admits
he sometimes stops to watch Steph Curry, has a snap out of him. Remember to coach.
Y'all saw John Lucas on the bench the other night after that crazy three from Steph. Man, when he went, when you're on the opposing bench and you're not supposed to celebrate.
it reminded me.
He laid out and everything. Was
reminded me of the Larry Bird game where he was giving the Hawks like
the
59 or 60. And like you saw the Hawks player just on the bench like he just didn't miss. It was just like
you gotta go from celebration to panic. Like
what are we supposed to do about this?
Excitement to confusion because you're just in the wrong.
We're just here, bro.
Nah, facts.
We're here to witness.
And so I mean, he's right there. He's right there in the hunt. So like if they won 3 of the last 4.
Yeah, they won
7 out of their last 10. They're on the up.
I mean, people got to realize it was really the road for them that was killing them.
Still is,
I mean, they didn't make up for it, but that's what was really getting them immediately starting the season. So yeah, they're shaking back.
It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting with all these guys: Tatum, Steph, Luka for sure. Because
it's just the amount of production he has to keep up.
You know what's funny? If I had to bet if Luka would score less, I wouldn't do it. Like, if he's averaging 30,
34.
34?
Yeah. I'm not hitting the under.
Yeah, like, his numbers are going to drop. Nah, I'm not. I'm never going to say that.
Nope.
He could. I see him averaging 36.
Why not?
I see it.
Why not?
36, 37.
I don't see what's stopping him from doing it.
I could easily see that. See that. Only time, I get concerned about Tatum's MVP race is when, Jaylen Brown has those big spurts and everyone starts looking like, oh, this team is so elite. So I think that's the only time I get concerned about my pick.
Oh, what about Devin Booker? Phoenix is first in the West.
I don't care.
In the West.
I don't
Booker's
care.
hooping.
I don't care. I do care about that. I'm a big Devin Booker fan. You don't care about Phoenix being first in the West.
27, 5 and 6. Chris Paul's been hurt for a big part of the season.
You're not MVP in conversations.
Not even in the combo?
No.
Number 1 team in the West?
No.
Yeah, we've been here last year.
Yeah, we've been here. We've been close to this several years before.
No, it was literally last year. We were having this conversation last year.
They were, it was them last year.
To show some love to Book, I think he has been playing well.
No, he's hooping.
He's hooping.
And I think
the assist and getting his teammates involved, sorry to cut you off, is what I really love to see.
And because of that, because they're able to maintain 1 seed, without Chris Paul, which was one of my concerns.
Yeah,
because I definitely said at moments like, I'm curious if he reverts back to, and that's not totally, but reverts back to just being, I'm gonna get my numbers guy, and the winning basketball kind of fades. Like, no, he understands winning basketball, and he's always been kind of clutch. So it's not like
they have a system in place now that's very much, and they know how to win games.
Exactly, and he's totally into it, bought into it, and understands it. So I think because of that, he does deserve some love, but is the MVP race talk yet? If those are the top
4 people that was averaging like 30, like, I'm sorry.
I mean, we're gonna talk about backpacking. We're gonna talk about Shea.
I was just about to say, but Shea's not. They're not gonna do any amount of winning.
We're not gonna waste time.
No amount of winning.
We're talking about backpacking.
My boy,
MIP, sure, whatever, but.
My boy's a dog.
Not superstar on the rise.
Man, hey, y'all remember when I said he don't fit in our timeline?
He fits now.
Make it fit. Make it fit.
Make it enough.
Make it work, y'all. Make it work, man.
At this point, you don't give him up.
Make it work, dog.
Yeah,
we here. I don't care at this point. I do not care. I do not.
Unless, what if y'all don't get that number 1 pick? And what if that is the move that whoever gets it?
Let's
Wemby for Shea? You about to ask me Wemby for Shea? Because I'm definitely saying
I'm gonna give you a crazier scenario.
Okay.
Y'all don't get the 1, but y'all get the 2 pick. So you got Scoot at 2. And you can move Shea for Victor.
Keep it Shea.
Still keep it Shea.
I'm saying you can have this 2 pick and everything you want besides Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, why do we keep having these hypotheticals with Victor? We just said he is the greatest potential draft pick of all time. No Lawan, no LeBron, no me. It's Victor.
No me.
But Scoot is that dude too.
Scoot's that. I'm high on Scoot.
You can completely to your point.
You watch this boy play?
Huh?
You watch that boy play?
You talking about Shea or Scoot?
You been on League Pass?
Shea is crazy. Shea is crazy.
So what are we talking about?
I'm simply saying to the point of like the whole idea of the timeline.
Yeah.
Like you can literally just revamp the entire timeline
with Scoot and Wemby.
Scoot, Wemby, and Chet.
I go with my first call and I say anything but Shea. If I can get away with that trade, I won.
I'm just saying.
If you're OKC and can say anything but Shea,
we can completely restart right now.
You can have 3 picks, Chet.
I feel you.
And that number 2 pick that is Scoot.
I feel you.
You can have that and name one else thing that's not Shea. What else? Y'all want Lou Dort? Go ahead. Like what? No disrespect. No disrespect to any of these.
Poku's been balling too.
Giddy.
Shout out to my boy.
But you gonna have to give me a pick or 2 back though. You're not going. I ain't going.
I was just making it like that. I think that's the most intriguing aspect.
I get it.
Yeah.
I think
you could just completely
if
restart.
they said no, we want Shea,
then I would pull the triggers.
Yeah, but that's my first offer is everything and my mama except Shea.
Yeah,
I think Sam Presti. I think Sam Presti thought when he first got Shea, and they went to the playoffs with Chris Paul, he was like, oh,
he's a good player.
We can build with him.
Yeah,
we can possibly build with him. I think this year, maybe a little bit last year, in the second half of last year, he was going crazy. Yeah. But coming in this year, he's like, oh no, this is our guy. Like, it's cemented. That's right. It's cemented. This is our guy. He's gonna help get us back
I would give Shea the keys.
Playoff conversations.
Give him the keys.
Like, I think that's where we're at this point. So
I'm mad at it.
And when I watch this kid play, man, I'm like, it makes absolutely no sense.
Not facts.
How good he is. If you are watching the show on YouTube, hey, what's up? We love y'all. Leave something in the comments. Like the video. Subscribe if you're new. We love subscribers. We love adding people to the family. So go ahead and do that. If you're listening, Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, you name it. What's up to y'all, man? Y'all like the show. Y'all download the episode. We like download.
I don't even know what a Stitcher is, man. This is getting out of hand.
I don't know either. To be honest with you.
Shout out to all my Stitchers.
That sounds crazy.
Yo, I don't know what to call them.
We appreciate y'all. We'll be back again next week. As always, eat, sleep, breathe the game. We love you. Be safe. We out.